will rapidly first summarize some important scientific results we have seen over the last 2 days, because they are important in terms of potential healthy life year increase. And so we will see then the political implications. So it's called What's Good for Our Long-Term Health. It was initially called something else, and you will see what it was. And so the idea is that if you want to live longer healthy, it's better to work to extend the part where you live healthy and the part where you live unhealthy. And so preventive medicine is clearly something to do, if feasible. And for that we need to know how to live longer in a good state. And so what can preventive medicine be, how to assess it? So we really need it because population is aging. And I took some slides from the European Commission initiatives. So population is aging, so it means a lot of chronic conditions. It means so far that life expectancy seems to increase much faster than healthy life expectancy, which is a trouble because we all soon become aged, and it's not very good for the economy. We will need a lot of health professionals, it will be difficult to be sustainable, and so on. So really time for healthy life years. And also, maybe it's a bit strong, but we feel that we haven't been good enough as a scientists in communicating what we are working for. And as a result, so far, it seems that a lot of the organizations in Europe are towards helping unhealthy people remain as healthy as possible. But we believe that we have solutions for real healthy lives. And so what could preventive medicine be? So there are 3 things that are more or less obvious. Walk a lot, have a good social life, eat fruits and vegetables. That's now more or less obvious. And there's one thing, it's that it's still not being so much used, because those things are things you would like to do, but it's not easy in everyday life. And so there are other things. So I'm just giving an example of things that may be good on a statistical point of view for most persons. So what are the balance risks between the potential prevention and the risks, by how much, etc. That's a question, so we need to assess that if we want to live healthy, long lives. So how to know what is good for your long-term health? You could say, well, let's look at a few persons, the one who lived very long. And if you do that, you understand that that's not enough. We need robust measures, robust science. And that's something we really need to push for if we want to have healthy lives. So, does anybody recognize those 3 persons? Okay, so here are their secrets. Winston Churchill, secret, he never quitted smoking. He lived quite long, more than 90 years. And his secret, when he was told, was sport. No sport. That was his secret. Jane Kelman, she lived until the age of 122. And her secret is that she quitted smoking at age 119, and she didn't even really quit smoking. Her other secret was just she was using a lot of olive oil, and perhaps there is something here. She was drinking a little Porto every day, perhaps that's it also. And she was taking a lot of chocolate, and perhaps that's it. And then Sarah Knowles, so an American woman, who is the second longest person in the world, if we only take the validated case, of course, which we believe are true. And she hated vegetables. That was her secret. And so even at the nursing home, when people were around her, she was directly going to the dessert. So maybe it's the dessert, maybe it's the sugar, maybe it's the smoking, or maybe not. So we really need to have serious data if we want to live longer healthy. And it will not only be good to live longer healthy, it will also be good to know the long-term health effects of drugs, for example, because we are in a society where now we have lots of drugs, lots of new materials, and many things may happen in the future, but it's not being much studied. And the metabolism is so complex that when you touch something somewhere, you don't know what is going to happen. It's not some in vitro model that will tell you anything about what's going to happen in the long term for your body. So we really need to monitor things over the long term. And we've got good examples of scandals in drugs where the long-term effects are just discovered, but so far it's not part of the healthcare system to monitor the long term. So we need to do that. And here I'm going directly to the main results. So they were showed yesterday, and they've been waiting for almost 2 years. A first step is not to do it in the humans, because it takes a very long time to do longitudinal studies. It's to test things in mice, and to look at what in our armamentarium may increase their lifespan in a good health. And so we already knew that there were a few things, like aspirin. So those are from the USA, from the Intervention Testing Program. It's a compound testing center for long-term health in mice. And so it's a public organization. And they did a few experiments, not a lot per year, but a few. And they found that rapamycin extends in a very robust way the lifespan of mice, even if started at late age. So maybe it could apply to humans. And also the same for aspirin, but at a small degree. And yesterday, Stephen Spindler, after doing really a lot of experiments on mice, on long-term tests, revealed to us a lot of things that work. And it's in full agreement with what was already known, so it's very promising. And it seems we already have things that extend our lifespan in a healthy way. So since yesterday, we know things extend mammalian lifespan in some ways. Will it work for us? That's something to test. So in humans, some of those things are already well known. One of them is the metformin. It's well known because it's the basic anti-diabetic drug. So it has been used by millions of persons in years. More than aspirin, in fact. And so we know a lot of it, and it was discovered that it was not only a good anti-diabetic drug, but it was a good drug against cancer risk and other risks. Still, the fact to use a preventive medicine is something new for many. So some medical doctors, and for some good reasons, are afraid that there will suddenly be too many people to go to that drug. And so in 2011, there was a movement of fear, where will we go to a scandal if everybody takes metformin? And so it has become quite silent. And in 2012, after a lot of discussions, we are seeing it more and more in popular science magazines, in medical journals, etc. And this drug has many effects, which is not very easy to explain, but it's a very good protectant against cardiovascular risks, against cancer risks, and against diabetes. So for the disease that we have today, it's a very good drug. And the side effects are very small, because they mostly, the severe ones, concerns 1 out of 3,100 persons, so almost no one. And this is this month's French popular science magazine, the one that is actually the most read. And it's based on human evidence, and mouse evidence also, but mostly human. It tries to give some level of proof of what it says, the drug that protects from all. So to me, this is really new. It means that we have reached the mind shift where this is reaching the general population. So aspirin, as many start to know, is very good to prevent cardiovascular risks. And aspirin can be used at very low dose. It doesn't have to be the doses that are dangerous for bleeding. It works. And same for cancer prevention, and same for neurodegenerative prevention. So here is the level of proof from 0 to 4, according to them. And if you read it, I will be happy to give it to you and buy another one for me. if you want to have the details. So metformin, as we've just said, and statins also. And it also mentions the polypill, which we've had a great demonstration yesterday with great new results. So the polypill, what is it? It is a simple thing. It is a mixture of some drugs that are given to many people who are a certain age and who have relatively high blood pressure or high cholesterol, and therefore a high risk of heart attack or stroke. And usually in a clinical state, a big dose is given. And here, what is modeled and found is that if you give a small dose to a lot of persons, but in a preventive way, it's sufficiently small to avoid the side effects in a very, very large majority of cases, all in the study. And you still get very strong benefits because there is a very large window, therapeutic window. And so they made a clinical trial, and they found they could match the parameters in terms of blood pressure and cholesterol that in principle would correspond to more than 70% of reduction of risk of cardiovascular disease. So we are really in a new medicine, we believe. It's found both in mice, from different labs, they found the same results. In people, the same type of drugs, same types of results, where we prevent the diseases of aging. And so all this is concrete since yesterday. We knew of it, we were discussing of it all around, but people didn't know if they wanted to show the results, and it has been shown yesterday. And so, is it something really new? Perhaps not, because Louis Pasteur somehow invented, not really invented, but really pushed forward the preventive medicine. We know usually him for the vaccines, which are really preventive medicine, but he's mostly also, he was very useful in terms of the theory of microbes to be spread throughout the world, to boil the water and drink boiled water in order to avoid numerous diseases. And that's really what created the biggest increase in life expectancy and healthy life expectancy over the last hundreds of years. Much faster increase than today. And so today, we're in a state where, due to society, formal concepts and way of functioning, we have a little forgotten this preventive medicine, the medicine that some people call the Chinese medicine sometimes, and we are more focused on curative medicine. But curative medicine is more at a late stage, where in fact we can do a lot with preventive medicine. And so that's why, with a dozen of scientists, a few months ago, we had created, maybe a bit too fast on the fly, with a lack of time, an initiative, a European initiative on the marketplace. It was called Knowing Effects on Healthy Life Years. So for us it was obvious, because we can postpone the diseases of aging just as we have seen in animals and in people. And we simply need to know with what, and what is the degree, and what is the risk, and what is the effect, some kinds of risk balance. And so our proposal was to develop a new industry of long-term health. But perhaps we did not explain the background enough. So here it is again, and after all this knowledge, on the left, so the goal is to develop some monitoring of what may be positive long-term health effects. The way to do it isn't first through longitudinal studies in people, because that's very costly, that's great, but that would be more a second phase of everything. So the less costly and much faster things are first in animals to do, as they started in the US, a testing center where animals are in a good environment, and we can test the drugs, and we can see in advance, we can try, it's mice, but it's a model, if some drugs have side effects in the long term. So we can avoid a lot of side effects. And we can also see if some positive effects are found, as we have seen, that may extend the healthy life years by not 2 years, but perhaps even 20 years, it seems so far. And so we believe that this needs to be done, and it's difficult to do in any lab because it requires special conditions, And so it requires a special center. And it's not something very big, we think, for Europe. And also, in people, before going to longitudinal studies, and we understand it's more complex, but if we can have databases with health data, we can observe if in the past the persons who are taking this or this drug, in the end, on average, had less or less of that disease. Because this is what we are finding so far. And the trouble is to have those data, and we believe that some discussion must be undertaken to have this knowledge of the long-term health. And we believe that if we want this not only to be a public funding for the positive effect of everyone, if we want it also to be a marketing thing with some business behind, we need to have a financial interest. And one thing could be to develop with the European Agency of Drugs, I'm sorry if I don't have the right name, something like a health label. It wouldn't be an indication. You are not sure that the effect will be good in the long term. But you have solid evidence that it's likely to be. And so this needs to be defined. And if we put such things on drug boxes, certainly very fast, the pharmaceutical industry, who today doesn't want to bother with long-term health effect, because they're already doing a lot for the short-term effects, but as a result there are long-term effects, they would be very interested in having their drug, having the label rather than another drug, etc. So it would promote healthy life years for everyone because of the knowledge. It would be part of a new business. So it wouldn't be so complex. Here on this graph, on this slide, on the left-hand side, I describe a testing center in Europe. So for example, it could be European Treatment Testing Program, but it could be another name. And so if we want to take approximately 30 drugs per year, based on the potentialities of what may increase healthy life years, it could probably cost around 2 billion euros per year. And that's based on what is already being done in the US at a small scale and a bit differently, and in different labs. So we believe that this is something achievable and it can really increase by a lot the healthy life years in a very simple, preventive way. And for the other side, the database and statistics, that's something to be discussed, but it's true that within the European community, there is some reluctance to have statistics on databases for health, for two reasons mainly, or many reasons. One is that there is the privacy question, but when we dig in the meetings about the privacy questions, in fact it's not much different than the telephone privacy, for example, because if someday everybody's discussion on phone was online on the web, that would be bad. And so in fact it's more some type also of leading the change, and we believe that here it's already being done with a lot of funding for ICT and health. So thank you. So just to say that there are a lot of things that increase the healthy life years of mice. And it's simple, it's not complex science, it's simply the drugs that are available today. It works. And we need to make it to people through the correct axis, because that's probably what's going to change our lives positively, just as Louis Pasteur did 100 years ago. A little more. Thank you.